So I've been doing YouTube videos since I believe in August, and we're already at the point where I'm looking back at some of my older videos and I realized I think I may have been wrong at something, but not necessarily the way I expected. I made this video about Battlefield versus Call of Duty, and I recommend you go check it out because it's a pretty interesting watch in hindsight, but I think I was wrong. But before we get into it, welcome to my channel. I'm Dustin. Happy to have you here. I make videos here every week and I stream on Wednesday nights. I'm also over at Last Stand doing podcasts there. Would love to have you check that out. If you like what you're seeing so far, consider subscribing. We're almost to 10,000 subscribers and every single one helps out a ton. So if you enjoy the video, consider the subscription. I would appreciate it. So let's get the obvious out of the way first. And it's been a weird year for Call of Duty, particularly weird year, but it's not necessarily completely uncommon that it feels like Call of Duty's having a weird year. This year, it's weird because we have Battlefield 6 as the main competition, and for years, Battlefield has been trying to claim the FPS Titan top spot. And they've had varying degrees of success, but even in their most successful times, it doesn't really come close to Call of Duty's success. It is funny to me, these games get compared all the time. They pretty much, I don't want to say always have been, but for over a decade now, more than that, have always been compared. And it's funny because while they're both first-person shooters and they're both military-focused, whether they're in World War II, some kind of present day, or in the future, they aren't really that similar at the same time. Battlefield being more about this large-scale combat with squads, and Call of Duty being more focused, well, there's team play, but more focused on your individual stats, and most people are just playing team deathmatch or some version like Hardpoint, something like that. So yeah, these games have always been compared. Call of Duty, though, always on top pretty much every time, and it makes sense. I think Call of Duty definitely has a more universal pick up and play appeal over Battlefield. And I mentioned the video I did closer to the beginning of this channel where basically the point of the video is I was saying like, well, Battlefield seemingly has more hype behind it than ever, and Call of Duty sentiment is at an all-time low. But usually the way these things shake out is that it really doesn't matter what the hype level for each game is. Call of Duty's on top, Battlefield behind. It doesn't mean that one is bad, that, Call of Duty always wins, therefore Battlefield's the lesser game. Like I said, they're just really different. So Battlefield got to go first. Battlefield 6 came out. Huge reception to this game. People absolutely loved it. Huge player counts. And overall, probably the biggest reception of a Battlefield game ever. I think it was maybe the best-selling Battlefield game ever, at least quickest-selling Battlefield game. And people were all about it. And I think they still are, though maybe some of the hype has died down. But when that came out, all eyes were on Call of Duty at that point. Like, are you guys going to be able to top this? Because right now, like I said, sentiment on Call of Duty was not very high. And it's been like a week or two since Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is out, and I am pretty surprised overall with what's been happening. First of all, I think most of the bad, complaining about the new Call of Duty has been about the campaign. People are not really liking it, saying it's a little too ridiculous, a little too silly, and it's overall just pretty half-assed. 4.5 hours long. A lot of it takes place on what appears to be a war zone map. And yet people, they're saying it's the worst Call of Duty in a very long time, maybe the worst Call of Duty campaign. And then there's the multiplayer, which I think has been a lot more subjective based on your personal tastes. The big thing has been about whether or not the skill-based matchmaking or lack thereof. I've seen so many takes fly around this, and honestly, I don't even really know what to think. Some people are saying that they feel like Activision lied about the reduced skill-based matchmaking. Other people feel like it's still there. Other people are annoyed that it's turned off because they realize that it actually was important. I don't really know, but there's a lot of conversation around it. But the craziest thing to me is these player numbers on Steam, and they are not looking very good. And I want to be clear right off the top. Steam player counts are not the only metric of a game's success. I see this on Twitter all the time where people are pointing out Steam player numbers as a gotcha on something, but I think there is useful information to be gleaned from this. In particular, just seeing the drastic reduction of the player count since the launch of Black Ops 6, comparing their peaks of Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7 is not looking very good. And like I said, it's not the only metric. There's some people that choose to play on Battle.net on PC, and the big one, of course, is PC Game Pass, where maybe those players aren't buying it on Steam this year. And then, of course, there's the whole console argument, whether it's PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. They're not going to be counted there. So it is one metric, but it's still one that I think is really, really important overall, just to see this level of drop. And it's funny looking back too now, because when we were thinking about the battle of the multiplayer shooter a few months ago between Battlefield 6 and Call of Duty, there's another player in the ring that maybe some people expected was going to be huge, but I certainly didn't think it was going to be as big as it was, and that's Arc Raiders, which is just pulling crazy numbers every weekend. I don't know if they're still exceeding, but for a while, every weekend, they were beating their previous player count. So no, the Steam numbers aren't any kind of definitive like Call of Duty's doing bad this year, but it certainly doesn't look good. If I was Activision looking at this, or Xbox, whatever, being like, why? What happened here? And it still may shake out that whether we get the Circana report or official data from Activision about total player counts that, oh yeah, it was totally fine. I would expect, though, at this point, it's going to be much lower than expected, even if it still does beat games like Battlefield 6 and Arc Raiders. So I've been playing a little bit of Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and I haven't put an insane amount of time into it, but I played a decent amount of the campaign, played some of the multiplayer, didn't really touch zombies, but zombies has never really been my thing. And I think it's given me a little clue about what's going on here. And it's not really all that surprising. Call of Duty comes out like clockwork year after year. Every year, new Call of Duty. I just realized I didn't even mention the AI stuff. That was another thing about the launch of this game where people were like, dude, what is going on with this game? And what's interesting too is that Call of Duty, despite coming out every year, it has its down years, I think, overall in quality, but they kind of still tend to go up and down. But to me, playing a little bit of the game this year just feels like a series that is running on fumes at this point. And I don't want to act like I'm some kind of like Call of Duty mega fan. I was looking, my Steam account does say I have 244 hours, thank you very much, on the PC version. And I played Modern Warfare 1 on Battle.net, and then of course all of the old games on Xbox 360. Who knows how many hours I put into those. I didn't play all of them, but I played a lot of them. So I have a decent amount of experience with this franchise at this point. And when I was playing it, particularly, I mean, the campaign, it's weird. I've got a hot take about the campaign. And it's bad. I'm not going to try to defend the campaign. Playing through it, I'm like, man, all the Warzone mechanics in here are weird. And just the lack of any kind of interesting set pieces is weird. I guess there are some interesting aspects of it, but it seems to be what people hate the most is the fact that this game is just really weird and silly. And ironically, some of those elements are actually what I kind of like about the campaign. There's the clip on Twitter that's going around of like the giant kaiju type fight. And one of the first weird missions, I mean, it's kind of weird from the very beginning, but one of the first really weird things, there's this mission where you're going around and there's giant machetes flying out of the sky. And eventually you're fighting this boss and you pick up a score streak in order to launch your own giant machete down. And I'm like, you know what? Call of Duty has always been pretty balls to the wall, and I kind of like that they're just leaning into it in some way. It was kind of cool. I know that people hated that about it, but I feel like the structure and the way the campaign is made was really bad and maybe too hokey, but I'd love to see a Call of Duty that's like, yeah, we're doing it. This is balls to the wall, crazy, stupid, and we're just leaning into it at this point. And they were like almost there with this one, but maybe not quite in the right way. And then the multiplayer, I started up the multiplayer and I was really curious because I have so much time in Black Ops 6 and there's something about it that feels weird. There's something that feels off about this game. My buddy Brandon said that when he was watching gameplay that it felt like a Chinese clone of Call of Duty. And I can't shake that feeling that when I've played it, that it's like something about this just feels like really slapped together in terms of an art direction. And I don't know what it is, if it's the time to kill or the different score streaks or whatever, but I'm like, man, maybe am I getting too old for this? Like I can barely even tell what's going on. And like I said, I have so much time in Black Ops 6. And when I was playing, I was like, man, this is weird. This is really weird. Between the drones and the score streaks, I don't know if there's a faster time to kill. Maybe it feels like it. But again, I said, maybe I'm getting old. Something about the multiplayer was just not clicking for me, even compared from a year ago with Black Ops 6. So I think there's two potential ways that we can look at this. Maybe in a month or a few weeks, we find out that the sales were just fine, the player count was just as big, and they don't need to change anything. Whether or not people thought it was good or bad, the sales were there, and that's all that really matters. But the other path that I'm actually more hopeful is the case is that this was a bad year, and this is the first time that Call of Duty has really been taken down a few steps in terms of sales. And to me, the ultimate thing that they could do is take a year off. Take the time to actually make something that feels new, that feels fresh. It would be crazy. I remember a few years ago, before, I think it was after Modern Warfare 2, there was rumors that they were going to do this, and I was pumped for it. It's like, yeah, just release some new maps, something like that for Modern Warfare 2. Take the time. But then they kind of just did that anyway, but bundled it together as a new game with Modern Warfare 3 and sold it for full price. It's tough for Call of Duty because they've kind of done everything that I can really think of at this point. They've gone back to World War II, they've gone back to just normal modern setting, and they've tried to do futuristic stuff. And so if you want to reinvent Call of Duty, where do you go? And I don't really know the answer to that. I don't know how they fix Call of Duty at this point. In my personal preference, Modern Warfare 2, the new Modern Warfare 2, was kind of the peak of this new, generation of Call of Duty in the last 5 to 10 years. So maybe just take the time, maybe take a year off. I know it's crazy, probably not going to happen, but either way, lock in on that time frame and make the most awesome version of that you can. I don't even care if you call it Modern Warfare 4. So that's about it for this video. What do you think about Call of Duty? Have you played Black Ops 7? And what do you think down below? Are you happy with this? Or do you feel like something is off with Call of Duty and they need to take some time to rethink what the direction of the series is? Let me know down below. I would really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, like I said earlier, hit me with a subscribe. Trying to get to that 10K. Would really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.